Hey guys, it's Drew again with another tabletop kind of review with some comparisons of the Mora Garberg, the full tang variant that Morakniv has come out with within the last couple years. This one is in the carbon steel. It's the black blade, as you can see. They also have one that's in Sandvik steel as well, which I think is supposed to be a little bit more brittle than this variant. So just for that reason alone, due to the hardness of the blades and the material of them, I believe the carbon is going to be the best suited one for more woods, bushcrafty style work. Unless the only exception being unless you're going to be in a saltwater area or something where the stainless steel is going to give you some better longevity for that reason if you're really concerned about rust. So basic specs of the knife. Again, this one is full tang. Full tang very simply meaning that, oops, sorry about hitting the camera there, that the metal of the blade goes all the way through the handle and you can see it protruding through the base here. The handle it's the same handle that's on the Morakniv Kansbol, which I have right here. It's the exact same handle, just different color, obviously. So it is a plastic, or hardened polymer, I think is what they call it. Yeah, so the hardened polymer, and again, this is the Mora Kansbol right here. They both feel incredibly lightweight for what they are, which is one of Mora's big things. I mean, they generally have very thin blades on these Moras. When you think of a full tang knife, I normally think of something that's, edging up close to a pound in weight, just because you want something that's a little beefy when you start getting into full tangs. If you're trying to use something in bushcraft, like something like a thick K-bar, BK2, or even like an SE5. Like something, let me see, I have an SE5 right here conveniently. Like SE5, you can see that bad boy is full tang. That's a 1/4 inch of steel, goes all the way through to the bottom of the handle, and of course that's a sharpened pommel for glass breaking and just general beating the crap out of something. Where weight is obviously going to be a big difference between these two knives, because you can see just the thinness, which I think this is just under, it's like 3.2 millimeters thick is what I believe the Mora Garberg here on the left is, and this is a 1/4 inch here on the right. So I think this is 0.13 inches, and then of course a 1/4, so 0.25 inches. So big difference there. It's about almost twice as thick, very close. So it's just some brief comparisons right there between the SE5 and this, which I will say is not exactly comparable when it comes to price point. Now, on a couple of other things real quick, spec-wise, the blade on this is 4.3 inches, so it's 109 millimeters. Overall length is 9 inches from pommel to tip of the blade over here. It is 8.5 ounces in weight, so it's very light. It's about a ½ pound or so. Yeah, so when it comes to the comparison, as I was explaining, Morakniv is known for their budget-friendly blades that are of two materials commonly. It's a carbon steel, and then they have their Sandvik steels. I like the look of the stainless. I mean, it's just shiny, cool, simple to please. I like shiny stuff, but I can see the practicality of the blackened carbon steel blades obviously being better for my uses. Oops, sorry about that. Hit my camera stand again. So out the box, this bad boy is razor sharp, just like all Mora knives are. It's got that beautiful grind, that Scandi grind profile. Makes it easy to keep it sharp. And it also has a ground spine, which means very simply that you can use it with a fire starter. So just I'd like to do a 45-degree angle and then just throw that bad boy out. I don't know if you could really see it so much in there, but very, very good stuff. Of course, I'm using it on a wood cutting board, not the smartest, but this is essentially a throwaway cutting board for me anyways. I'm beating the crap out of it. So that's how it works there. This is an Uberleben Fire Steel. I really like it. It's nice and beefy, just like I like it. I wear extra large to 2XL size gloves, and in terms of a fit for the handle here, I mean, I got just enough room to get a full fist grip on this bad boy. and to be able to definitely choke up if I need to. I like having my thumb on the back of the knife, so jimping tends to be a nice thing for me. However, it's not a requirement. Jimping, if you don't already know, is these ridges that are on the back of some knife blades. They're not sharp, they just give you a little something to get some purchase. Now, Mora being a budget-friendly blade, they tend to skip over things like that because it takes a little bit extra effort. It slows down the manufacturing process slightly. It's just an extra step, costs a little bit more money, so this is a little bit more budget-friendly for that reason. Now, budget-wise, all right, so Mora is all over the place in terms of their budget, but they tend to be in between like $10 for something like this, which is a Mora heavy-duty companion knife, which is this one's a carbon steel that's not coated black like the Garberg here at the bottom of the screen. It is not full tang, so you do not see the steel coming out the rear or the bottom of the pommel here of the blade. A lot of full tang knives, you normally see the steel going all the way through the back of the handle. Not a big deal. So this is like a 3/4 tang, which is most of what Morakniv makes, a 3/4 tang, meaning that the blade stock is pushed in here and it stops, I would say approximately where the R and the A are here in Morakniv in the handle. So about where my finger's at is where the blade's going to stop. So this last, inch and a half or whatever is essentially just polymer handle. So this is a $10, $15 blade. I think on Amazon you might be able to see them $20 at most, but about $15 is what I bought this at very, very recently. I have several of these because they are so cheap. I think even in some Midwestern stores you can find them in like gas stations and whatnot. They're that common and they're great to beat up. Highly recommend it. Now this one's a little bit more expensive, and instead of the $15-ish blades, this one is the Morakniv Kansbol, or Kansbol, Kansbol. And this one is more directed towards slicing. As you can see, these last couple of inches here towards the blade, how it's kind of ground in a particular way to where the blade gets very, very thin towards my fingertips on the right side of the screen here. And it is great for slicing and fine work. However, it is very easy to bend that blade profile over. For example, this one right here, I've done a review on it on my channel recently. The blade tip, just from taking it out of the box, was already rolled over and partially broken off. So the tip is, it won't stick in this whatsoever in my cutting board if I dropped it. There's just nothing there, so I'm going to have to sharpen that very, very good. Anyways, this Kansbol, slightly different purpose, sharper in terms of, since it's thinner and a thinner profile of the blade, it's not quite as wedged of a Scandi grind as the companion heavy duty. And in terms of thickness of the blade, let's pull that out real quick so I can give you a visual representation of the thickness. If you can see the comparison, the Kansbol is on the bottom and the heavy duty companion is on the top. It may be difficult to see, however, the heavy duty companion up here on the top is not twice as thick, but it is definitely noticeably thicker than the Kansbol on the bottom. So normally a thicker blade typically means more durable. Typically, not all the time, but essentially, since it's same kind of Sandvik steels, or the similar steels, not the same because that one is a carbon, then you can assume that that one's going to be slightly more durable with the them having the same rat tangs. Now these have the same grips as well. This is more of a $35-ish blade in comparison to that $15 blade on the heavy duty companion. So it's going to be a little bit more focused as to what you can do with it, whether it be something like skinning animals and the like, versus the Garberg here, which feels slightly heftier in terms of weight. I don't have a scale on me, but the Garberg is 8.5 ounces, to where this Kansbol is probably closer to, I don't know, maybe 6.5, I'd say. I don't have my scale on me, but I know it's ballpark. It's a little bit less than the Garberg, of course, because the tang for those last couple of inches does not exist in the Kansbol, where it does here and it protrudes out the back. So with this having a slightly thicker blade stock as well as a longer tang, that's going to have some obvious weight. And of course the handles are essentially the exact same. I don't think there's any difference other than the color. So those are the main differences there. So blade thickness and differences, it's maybe slightly harder to see on the screen. However, The thickness of the Garberg is, again, closer to the thickness of the heavy-duty Companion, where it's not quite twice as thick, but it is significantly more durable. So what that would mean thicker, or significantly thicker, which should equate to more durable. That's what I'm trying to say. So there's that. The blackened carbon I personally like. It doesn't show wear as much. The fire steel, of course, being a super hot spark there, you're going to see some minor wear from that. But I wanted to give some comparisons in terms of price. So just to do a little recap, this is like a $15-ish blade from Mora, this heavy-duty Companion. Then you have the $35-ish blade. Now this Garberg is kind of all over the place with price on Amazon. So, and that's where I've gotten most of my Moras, is just Amazon purchases, and I make sure I get it shipped and sold by Amazon direct from Mora, from Sweden and all that. So you can see all the the seller and fulfilled by Amazon stuff. So you can assume that you're not getting a knockoff, which they do exist, and they're getting more prominent now in 2024 because China's definitely hopping in the game and making copies of these very successful knives because they're so popular. So you got the 15, you got the 35. Now the price for this, I've got the modular sheath variant. So it came with, and I keep hitting my camera, so let me push this out of the way some. It came with, this is the standard plastic or polymer sheath that it comes with. So with these three lines in the back, this Garberg sheath as well as the Kansbol sheath are essentially, they're interchangeable, and you can also get the fire starter survival kit, and it'll clip in the center down here of the sheath. It'll lock into these three little ridge lines in the back. You'll see your fire steel and your sharpener on it. That's an option on the survival one. This one that I purchased was the modular sheath, which normally I wouldn't particularly care about, but so for starters, I got, if I can pull this off quickly, I got another accessory with it. So I'm just going to slide this off here, which is the belt clip. I'll just slide this piece all the way around like so. You can push it up till you feel a little lock in the sheath. Then when you put the blade in as such and it locks in there, this is a piece that I don't particularly use, so it's going to be a little tight. You can see that, I mean, the Mora knives sheaths are normally very good at locking in without a retention strap such as this. But you can see from this that it is very securely in there now, even without this strap here. I mean, it's not shaking out already by itself. And I mean, I'm not necessarily throwing my hand around, but I would feel confident with this in the woods with just this standard sheath, or with this standard belt attachment, and not worrying about this clip part that goes in the top. So that's what I was getting at with that. And then in addition to that, this modular sheath comes with this little, I would just call it an accessory sled, just because that's what it makes me think of, a sled looking at it. Just as an example, you could just pop your sheath right on top of there. You'd be able to use these different variations of Velcro to web through these slots however you need them to, or same thing through the sides of these slots to be able to, like, you can have it sit like this, and it doesn't click in per se. You're just going to kind of push it in there like so. It doesn't click in if you push it down or anything of the sort, or at least it's not for me. And then you could just throw some Velcro behind here, and then you could lock that bad boy in there just like how my fingers are with the Velcro. You can throw some Velcro, weave it through here, through molly attachments like that, or same thing, you can do it at the bottom. You can lock it at the top, you can lock it at the bottom, then you can molly it through and go on like a backpack strap or something like that. That's if you want to go that route. That's not something that I do. I don't tend to throw knives on backpacks like that. However, I could see the use for it in some cases, for like camping and things of the like. If someone's going to do some hiking and they just want a good camp knife that can help them do some minor tasks around the campsite and things of the like. So there's that. Now, the only reason I went with the survival sheath, or not the survival sheath, the sheath that I did with the different attachments, to kind of be a little bit more versatile, instead of just purchasing this one, because you would think, well, you know, that's more material, it's more expensive. It wasn't on Amazon. It was the weirdest thing. It was like for the standard Mora Garberg, and this holster was like, I don't know, 80 bucks almost. And I wasn't going to spend 80 bucks on a Mora, was kind of my thinking on it when I was looking at it, because you can get something that's very, very similar for, you know, 35, or you can get, you know, like 5 heavy-duty companions for less than that, which is crazy. And then when I looked at the other variants that they offered, like the Molly accessory sheath, I can't remember the exact name of it, but with that variant that I got, as well as the survival one, the survival one was like 120 bucks, which again is crazy when you think about it, with it just being the fire steel mount that just clips on the bottom here. And I think you could buy that separately for 25 bucks. And then the accessory one that I did purchase, with all the extra attachments and whatnot that I'm probably never even going to use, was cheaper than all of those, which was even weirder. So this cost me, I want to say, about $65. So one of the things so I'm a big gearhead, so one of the things that made me think about if I was going to spend the money on it is, well, what else do I have in my collection that's in that $65 price range now, in terms of what it's valued at now. So let me just set this aside for a second. And here's one that's kind of well loved as a comparison. This is the, made in El Salvador. This is the Condor bush lore knife. It's been a little well loved. You can see a bunch of, you know, strike marks on it and whatnot, and the edges are slightly jacked up. You can kind of see. So it's got some use. It almost looks like a big cooking knife with the handle on it. So the handle's not exactly the greatest looking, but it feels really good for what it is. It's a great bushcraft knife. It's a softer steel. I think this is like 1055 or something, versus this carbon steel on this knife. I don't remember the exact numbers that they use for theirs, but either way, it's all budget friendly stuff. This Condor knife, when I got it, this bush lore, was like $50, but I got it several years ago, of course. So now I've seen it for about 65 bucks, so essentially the same price I got this Mora for. And just, I was thinking of this, and I was like, all right, well, this Condor bush lore, this Mora, are essentially in the same price point. Do I have anything else that would kind of be close to that? And I think the next closest thing that I have, with the exception of these handle scales, is the Becker BK16. And with both of these, you can see that they are full tang. So from the tip of the blade all the way through the handle to the bottom of the handle, you can see that the steel of the knife goes all the way through, and it only has 3 holes for attachment points. It's got these 2 little pins, which I'm assuming are brass, and then it's got this little lanyard hole at the bottom to attach. Different than the Mora Garberg here, which you can only see the one point here, which for a lanyard hole. So of course, this being a handle that's kind of pushed in or molded around, you can see the mold mark going straight through the rear of this handle, nothing on the side, and then also straight through the front. Very, very fine line through it. So you can see that, you know, they kind of meld it all together, versus this one, which is all pressed in there, and it's got more of a, I don't even know what you would call that finish, kind of just like a blasted finish. And then if the K-Bar BK16, it comes with different handle scales. This is aftermarket, micarta, which was like 40 bucks, but it comes with like a slippery black plastic handle scale, which is comparable in feel to the Mora, more of the front and back of the Mora knife, not necessarily the textured bit. It's very smooth on this one. I didn't like it, so I upgraded them. So if you ignore the handle scales, price-wise, these three were very, very, very similar. And I do have to say, if I was going to spend about 65 to 80 bucks on a fixed blade knife now, between these three specifically, I don't know if I would necessarily pick the Mora. I've gotten a lot of use and the most time out of these three knives on this Condor bush lore, and it's done great for me. And it looks good for what it is, and I'm confident with it. However, I probably would go with the K-Bar if I had to go over it again, or do it over again and make the purchase. It just feels better to me. In terms of customizing it, if you really wanted to, you have the ability to change the grips out. It doesn't have to be micarta, it doesn't have to be this particular color. There's a bunch of options for it, so there's some aftermarket support, but I like tinkering, so That could be a me thing, and again, hand size wise, I wear extra large to 2XL size gloves. You can see the thickness of the handle here in comparison to the Mora on kind of how the handle would feel. It's got palm swell in the center of the handle, but the top and the bottom are very narrow on the Mora, to where it kind of almost looks like a couple of waves on the K-bar, where you can kind of see it goes up and down and up. So it's nicer to me. It feels nicer, and to where it doesn't have necessarily a guard, but it does have this little hump right here that helps keep you on the handle, and your hand's not going to necessarily slip up. To where it gets more narrow here, it's not necessarily as pronounced. It exists, but it's smooth. So I mean, you do have the ability to slip your finger off there easier than you would on the K-bar. The K-bar does have the jimping on the back, to where the Mora knife does not. However, the ease of being able to shoot a spark off of these knives, I do have to say the Mora is easier to be able to use a fire steel. So if you were going to do that, the Mora is a little bit easier than the K-bar, and it has the ability to do so, to where the K-bar has this coating all the way around. I can't remember what it's called exactly, but this particular coating, it kind of feels sandy in its texture versus the smoothness of the carbon steel there. So there is that as a difference. So if I had to do it over again, and if it was an only you can have one knife thing, the BK16 would win. The Mora Garberg would be behind it, followed by, if I was going to go Condor Bush Lore. That's only if I'm in this price range. That's not to say that this Garberg is a bad knife by any means, and I don't have any regrets in making this particular purchase. As like I said, I am a gearhead. I do like collecting knives, guns, axes, things of the like that I can use while camping or hunting or whatever, doing any kind of survival things for a hobby. So do like it. So let me set these aside. Let's get these knives out of here for a moment and just give you just a little look at this. If you can ignore my fire steel marks on here. So I have the complaint of the handle being a little too slick for me. This texturing on here really doesn't do much in terms of any grippiness, in my opinion. There's nothing that feels like it's gonna stop your hand from sliding any particular way. It just slightly raised, slightly not. You see the other side. You're not gonna confidently use this pommel for much of anything in terms of smashing anything, in my opinion, like you would on something like the SE5 here that's got a pronounced pommel on it. And you can even see it's sharpened up by my thumbnail here. It's on both sides, it's sharpened, so if you needed to use it as a glass breaker or something like that, it's an option. Not like you would have to do that in too many wood situations, but it's a very tiny bit of weight added onto the actual tool to be able to be used as such. Again, the guard up here from your finger from slipping, to be able to stop that, is really smooth and not quite as pronounced on the Mora Garberg. This is a very lightweight knife, so in the lightweight knife category, I would put this probably, I would definitely say second place among all my knives, not just the couple that I have here. So I would still say first place, second place, in my opinion. I would like to know what you have to say about it in the comments below. Of course, the BK16 is a little bit of a taller knife as well. It's got a little more belly to it, is what I mean by the tall comment. Just a little bit more of a rugged, I'm going in the woods and I'm going to come out of it kind of look to it. I'm not sure. I like this knife a lot out of my collection. So now some comparisons of knives that are not in this price range. If you were going to say, all right, well, I don't necessarily want something that's that light. I like Mora. I just want to know what other things I could be potentially getting for my money. Now, I had the SE5. This is not an apples to apples comparison by any means, but it is a fixed blade knife. So this would be better to be compared to an SE4, which I currently do not have at the moment. So that would be, you know, of course, it'd be a 4-inch blade. It would have a finger choil, so it would be essentially a cutout in the blade right about here, right before the blade starts, where you can put your finger and get some real fine work in there. So if you have an SE4, then that would be, I would say, an upgrade from this particular knife. Another one that I would say would be a step above, or several steps above of the Mora Garberg, would be the Tops Bob, the Fieldcraft. The Fieldcraft by the Brothers of Bushcraft by Tops Knives. Tops Knives are great. Some of them look a little weird in my opinion, but I think the company's pretty good. Very expensive, but if you're going to compare some bushcraft knives, and obviously this one's got some use in its day, I don't really think you can beat the feel of the Tops Fieldcraft in your hand compared to some of these modern knives. I mean, you could just tell by looking at the handles which one's going to feel a little bit better in your hand. The Brother of Bushcraft might look a little bit rectangular from the side, but it's a little wavy. It might be a little hard to see in the video, but it's got some waves to it that just feel good in your hand. In comparison, the blade stock's a little thicker, apparently fairly significantly thicker than the Mora knife, if you can kind of see the difference here. So again, not to talk bad on the Garberg by any stretch of the imagination. It is a good knife for the money, for what it is. There is just so many better options out there, in my opinion, from things that I have used, whether it be like an SE4, which again is not pictured, the BK16, the Tops Bob Fieldcraft. There's so many other ones out there. That's the gist of what I'm trying to get at here. If you're going to do some long-range hiking and this is all you had with you to help you with some stuff at camp, then I think that you would be well equipped to have the Garberg and you shouldn't have this concern. But if you are more of a collector and you're like, I have to have the best of the best within this budget, the sub $100 budget, I do think that between this Garberg and the BK16 and the Condor Bushlore, all three of them would be great. The K-Bar and the Garberg being the best two in my opinion. If you're talking the $100 to $200 price range, anything in the SE line would probably be the best in my opinion, followed by the Tops Fieldcraft knives in any of the steel variants that Tops offers, because I think they offer a handful of different steel variants of essentially the same knife here. Like from 154 cm, they have 3V. They go crazy. But yeah, so this would be more of the 175 plus range for the Tops knives. So yeah, hopefully I didn't spit out too much information here that's gonna make anybody trying to buy confused. Not a bad knife at all, just a little too light and narrow for me is the gist of it. There are plenty of options out there. It's the beauty of the free market. So yeah, if you like this video, leave a like. Please let me know if you want to know something in particular in these videos where I do some tabletops and comparisons and the like about the knives specifically that I'm showcasing off, being like this one being obviously the Garberg and carbon. That way I know for next time, for when I do some of these other knives here that are shown, because I think I don't have these three knives here posted yet. So I would like to know what you would like to know. That way I can get this posted for you and you'd be able to see it. So leave a like, make sure you subscribe to see that content, and I'll see you in the next video.